Welcome everyone to Bonifabcustom. Today I'm going to show you how I make Raindrop Damascus and Ladder Pattern Damascus. Let's get right into it. To begin our Damascus, we need to get some material prepped. We're going to be using 15N20, which is a high carbon steel with a nickel content, and 1095, which is another high carbon steel. We're going to shear it up into 2x4 inch pieces. Then we're going to stack the pieces. The green represents the 15N20 and the red represents the 1095. So we could see that we stagger them. We're going to stack them in a billet about 25 layers. We're going to make 2 of them. We're going to bring our forge to forging temperatures, which is above 2000 degrees, and we're going to squeeze them down in our press to about 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to do this slowly. We're going to put it in the forge, heat it up to that temperature. We're going to put some borax on the outside as we start, just to make sure it's a clean forge weld. And we're going to squeeze it down, and eventually we're going to get to that size, about 3/4 of an inch. So let's get into cutting our material, welding up our billet, and then forging it. Now we forge welded both of these billets, 25 layers and 25 layers. They came out to a piece that is now 3x6 inch. It's a lot bigger because it's squeezed down and forged out. We're gonna take these, we're gonna put it in our milling machine, and we're gonna mill the sides square and one of the faces. And both of those faces that are milled, we're gonna take them and we're gonna put them face to face, and we're gonna weld all the way around. And then we're gonna put it into our forge, and we're gonna forge weld both those billets together. Now we're gonna have a total of 50 layers in that billet. So let's forge it down. Now we have our billet all forged together. We have 50 layers and it's approximately 11 by 3.5 inches in length and width, and it's about 3/4 inch thick still. What we're gonna do is we're gonna cut a smaller piece of this billet because we're making some smaller knives and we don't need that whole billet. We're gonna cut it and we're gonna use these two. Basically, one will make our ladder pattern and the other one will make our raindrop pattern. So for our ladder pattern, we're gonna put this billet, or one of these billets, on our milling machine, and we're gonna machine the side square and both faces square. And then the trick is we're gonna take a ball nose cutter, which is a round end cutter, and we're gonna machine into the billet itself. On the top, we're gonna take out this material. And the bottom, we're gonna stagger where we're gonna take material off. Kind of like that. Once we remove this material, the sides of our Damascus is exposed. We're gonna take this billet with those cutouts and we're gonna put it back into our forge, and then we're gonna press it down and squeeze it down to about 1/4 inch thick. If I look at the top view of what happens after, basically we're gonna get these lines going this way. And it's going to consist of the 15N20 and the 1095. And that's why it's called ladder pattern, because of these lines that look like the steps of a ladder. Let's machine it, forge it down, and then we'll move on to our raindrop Damascus. Now for our Raindrop Damascus. Similar to the ladder pattern, we need to cut into our billet, but instead of cutting with an end mill or a ball nose or a grinder across it, we're going to drill holes into both sides of the Damascus billet. Now, you can vary with different types of diameters of drill holes. That's what we're going to do, but you can drill multiple different size holes, or you can keep with one consistent hole, different patterns. It's really up to you, and the patterns are endless. What we're gonna get when we're done, once we drill those holes and forge it back down to about 1/4 inch, we're gonna get kind of like multiple patterns around where those holes were, because as we drill into those holes, the pattern is exposed, and once we squeeze it down, you get this type of pattern, which is a round pattern of Damascus, like that. So let's drill some holes on our mill and forge down our billet. Now that we forged out our billets, we took them on our milling machine and we milled off the scale. I do that because it's just a lot easier and faster to do that than to grind it on the grinder. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them and I'm gonna put them into sulfuric acid to etch the surface to see that pattern. Sulfuric acid will eat away at the 1095 and not the 15N20 because of the nickel content. And that's why you see that contrast between the two metals. So let's give this a preliminary etch to really see our patterns. Thanks again everyone for watching Bonifabcustom. As you saw how I made my ladder pattern Damascus and my raindrop pattern Damascus. If you have any questions, just direct message me on my Instagram or my YouTube or my TikTok. And thanks again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.